impressive.
I went.
Nothing happened. I just tried to see it. Highway, monsieur. It's striking, really striking when it happens. This was a powerful explosion, one that raised doubts, obviously, especially because there is a context of conflict, of war, right? And well before, there were constant attacks on gas refinery areas, etc. So in light of this, obviously the question was it an accident or not? First, let's go to the details, because now we actually know. So what happened with that explosion? When we finished the afternoon broadcast, that's exactly when that explosion was happening. And through shorts, we shared it with you. We were sharing images of how the situation was unfolding, right? Given this report, well, obviously we thought it was an attack, right? Now, according to the authorities in Qatar, we have to remember that Qatar is also a country that is seeking, well, this could be, what's it called? After those who are advocating for things to calm down, let's say among the countries along with Pakistan and Qatar. Basically, these are the countries that are seeking, well, to reach the agreement. The famous one, right? So the authority from Qatar says this. I don't know if it's because they want to reach a solution or for some other reason, or maybe simply because it really was just an incident. But they insist that up to now, they don't see any drone attack. I mean, no such thing was detected. I mean, let's go. Savatak. Yes, Nazize, or see exactly. It doesn't mean that it couldn't be sabotage or something else, but they say they don't see any sign of drones. At least, not in that sense. Let's take a closer look. There was a strong explosion in an area in the industrial city of Ras Laffan in the north of Qatar. This is one of the most important energy facilities in the world when it comes to gas. The incident happened at a factory right in the area where the gas is located. The authorities attributed the explosion to a potentially technical problem, but they are investigating. The civil defense team was immediately deployed, so in any case, there are already investigators working on it. It was confirmed that for now there are no reported leaks, and at first they said there were no injuries, denying any possibility of injuries, and insisting, no, there are no injuries. It's calm, as if they were really forcing the idea that absolutely nothing happened, but then information started coming out more and more and things weren't as calm as they se empezó a jarete. Later on, they started giving details that there were missing people, that there were dozens of cini. And this, well, matched more with the images of an explosion and what people heard, and so on. The blast was even heard in Doha, the capital of Qatar. I mean, dozens of kilometers from Ras Laffan spread out in the same area. What does that mean? Well, that the explosion was tremendously big, right? This area is strategic infrastructure for the energy sector, which is key for them, right? I mean, it's a small country, rich, but still small. And it depends a lot on this, on gas, right? Now there are already reports talking about alleged injuries. According to the latest information we have, there are 54 people injured and there are also people missing.
There are 18 missing. That's information from the Minister of the Interior of Qatar. And well, that's it. This plant is one of the largest liquid gas plants in the world.
Well, look, there has been this nervousness. It seems that they are not going to take it as an attack. I mean, that's how they're going to take it. They're going to take it as a technical incident, at least until proven otherwise. That really catches my attention, honestly. So let's leave it there then, right? Apparently that's the case, but there are injured people. They're investigating. We'll see in more detail if there's any other information we can talk about. But let's go over everything that's happened around this very strange, very historic day. Also, because for the first time we're seeing this image. Look there. We see the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who is the highest ranking figure of a country. He really is. I mean, he's the highest ranking one. Everyone is greeting him. The one in blue is greeting the one from Pakistan. Let's take a short pause. This individual is from Pakistan. He is the Prime Minister of Pakistan, right? There we see that the one from Qatar is about to enter. If I'm not mistaken, it said that he is the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister. Well, no, the others are also top level. So there it is. Look, Prime Minister with Prime Minister. Qatar, the one in blue, and Pakistan, the one in brownish, right? They hug and share a kind of kiss, right? Something like that. ignorant, and they skip JD Vance. Look, here he is. Sorry, I'm making the image smaller because you can't see the whole thing. Look, there it is. I want you to see. Como, pues se salta. There he is. JD Vance greets him. Look, there he is. JD looks at him and skips him like he's going to greet him, but he just... No, it's not like that. Well, here he is. Here is this guy. And that's it. He doesn't greet him. He just looks at him and greets him. And that's it. Well, from JD Vance. He has no choice but to talk now. Later, you'll notice they're calm as they talk, not upset. But this kind of thing stands out, maybe like symbols, if you want to call it that.
For this meeting, Ghalibaf, who is the president of the Iranian parliament, didn't go in. He refused to enter until the cameras were out. This is very interesting because Abbas doesn't go. Agarashi does go in, but Ghalibaf doesn't. So there's no image or record of Ghalibaf together, or in the same room with JD Vance, Steve Wyckoff, or Jared Kushner.
Exactly, with Kushner. And look, at one point they had left. We stayed in that story. I mean, really, the Iranians left. You see, they left and, well, they were already gone. I don't know, because they got angry about what Trump said. And Trump got angry about what they said. Well, yes, Pezeshkian, who is the Iranian president, Iran, a domino effect, one after another, and suddenly they're already... The Pakistanis are the ones who convinced the Iranians to return to the negotiating table. And then, once they're already outside, you can see that they go back. And if there is a dialogue at the last minute, it turns out there is a dialogue between Pakistan and the United States. They meet after decades of not doing so. And despite strong threats from Trump and from Masoud, Mazoupas, and Pezeshkian, and from everyone saying the worst things to each other, well, they get together again. Hours after we talked about this, we found out how this turn happened. So, what happened?
Negotiations continued in Switzerland until early Monday morning in Suiza, donde to an agreement to create what they call a de-escalation cell, which is meant to address the fighting in Lebanon. That's an issue they also have to discuss with Israel. It's also a framework in a 60-day roadmap. That's the idea. 60 days to reach a permanent agreement between both parties. And this is the first part of the talks that was announced with Pakistan and Qatar, who are the official mediators and who report. In addition to technical discussions that will continue throughout the rest of the week, also there in Switzerland, where this first meeting took place. I mean, the talks will continue on more technical topics like the nuclear issue, etc. And both Pakistan and Qatar published a memorandum where they assured that they would guarantee compliance with the cessation of military operations in Lebanon. So they were waiting for this, including the government of Lebanon, to start with the agreement because it's basically step one.
So, we're talking about if there is at least some technical rapprochement. By the way, I put the map of Lucerne there in Switzerland because it was in Lucerne where this meeting took place, right? And it's a very beautiful place, a place right there near the Swiss Alps and all that. I mean, this approach happens. They meet. Qatar, supposedly it was like an apology. Pakistan and Qatar were really the ones who became mediators. And yes, they apparently did their job quite well. But look at the combination. I mean, Switzerland, always being the neutral country, also does this kind of work, providing the venue for Pakistan and Qatar. Well, getting to know the more Arab way of thinking up close, let's say, not more Muslim because they're not Arab at all, they're Persian. But anyway, let's say there's more rapport, more room to connect, and more ability to move the issue forward a bit. Besides Pakistan, well, as the only nuclear nation in the area besides Israel, the, let's say, Arab nuclear nation, well, there's also a bit of extra pressure since Pakistan has many ties with Saudi Arabia, specifically pushing this, and Qatar, well, kind of acting as a representative of the Arab countries, along with, well, the only Gulf country that was present there, right? Really, maybe there was someone else there, but let's say as a prime minister, well, it was just them there. And then JD Vance, who actually seemed a bit uncomfortable, like he didn't really belong there, right? as if he didn't know much about the topic or something like that. And also, in the end, he's a person who I don't think is very well liked, right? Obviously, so he seemed out of place, like he didn't really belong. They constantly send him because he's the figure from Trump's administration. But really, the one who should have been there was Marco Rubio. He's really the one who has the position to sign and to make the moves that need to be made.
Anyway, AJ Vance has basically been given that mission, right? To reach a good agreement, and if not, it's basically going to be his fault too. And there's a reaction from Abbas Agharashi to this meeting that took place today, where he says that there were important advances in the talks. The Pakistani and Qatari mediation has achieved important advances to put an end to the war in Lebanon. He stated that the establishment of a de-escalation cell in the Lebanese conflict is the first real test. She also pointed out that there are negotiations, important advances in the negotiations, and that the export of oil and petrochemical products has been suspended. Yeah. The blockade is lifted, some frozen assets are released, and a major reconstruction and development plan for Iran is launched. We'll see if this is true because, well, supposedly Trump said they wouldn't be given a single cent. And now he's already talking about releasing frozen assets.
Hey, but we're talking about this happening in 60 days, right? In 60 days, the whole deal has to be done, right? The conflict comes to an end. The nuclear issue is signed. Masoud Pezeshkian said, no, we're going to keep enriching uranium today. Yes, yes. But at the same time, he said, but we're not going to make nuclear weapons. I mean, later he clarified a bit. And in that clarification, he talks about not making nuclear weapons and committing to the IAEA and all that stuff. So, well, they have that audience, those more extreme politicians who want to say, no, yes, keep going with the uranium. And on the other hand, they have that other side and the world telling them, if you keep going down that path, the war will continue and there won't be any way to stop this. So, well, that's where the importance of a character like Pezeshkian comes in, who in theory is the most...
Right? Exactly. And today, tankerstrackers.com is an NGO that basically tracks oil tankers. It reports that Iran has taken advantage of this truce to move 36 million barrels out to sea, according to Tank Trackers. And Iranian oil is currently being sold for around $75 to $78 per barrel after discounts. And well, as a result, Iran managed to generate in just these few days that the market opened between a $1.8 and $2.2 billion in gross income, considering that Iran exports 1.7 million barrels per day. Before the truce, it can be said that they recovered 21 days of blockade. In addition, several empty oil tankers entered Iranian waters in recent weeks to increase their floating storage capacity.
There it is. There is the event. There it is. There is the place. There is the meeting where it happened. It's curious to see the four flags, isn't it? On the right side, you can see the Iranian flag.
Even farther away, I don't know.
And on the opposite side is the United States. And in the middle, between the United States and this side, and Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, sorry, there's Qatar, and then obviously Pakistan, and then Iran, right? So it's Lake Lucerne Summit, right? This, well, kind of summit or meeting in Lucerne, Switzerland, and at least we're back at the negotiating table. Well, that's obviously interesting, but they'll say something more.
They'll say something more? Yes, well, today there was a rather curious comment from the German defense minister, Boris Pistorius. Today he claims that the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is Donald Trump's fault. That's exactly what he said, just like that, without holding back, right? The German defense minister blamed the President of the United States today, June 21, and he asked for this maritime route to be reopened because we have to remember that it is currently closed. Yes, they say definitely the blockage that is obstructing the Strait of Hormuz was put there by Donald Trump, not us, but we have an interest in reopening it. He mentioned it in an interview with a German TV channel. We already know the Strait of Hormuz is a key route. And basically what Boris Pistorius is asking for is the reopening. And what if the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, or rather safe passage through it, is in Europe's interest, in the interest of energy, supply, and our economic recovery?
There's a report published in American media where they claim that the little war is on, right? from February 28th until now, it has cost the United States $40 billion. But that's $40 billion more. Add to that the commitments the United States is making to pay for certain things. So there's a tremendous amount of money being spent. Also, that the conflict basically doesn't continue. So why did you start it in the first place? You could have saved those 40 billion, which would have been very useful for other issues. And well, the point was, what agreement will you reach? Let's see if it's signed and if the pot can really be inside. And see if it's really fulfilled. Right? Time will tell. But
These figures, are part of an analysis by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, where according to their estimates, the first 100 hours of the war cost the United States $3.7 billion. By the 12th day, the cost had already reached approximately $16.5 billion. And later, the daily cost of combat operations started to decrease as the attacks tapered off. Because yes, as they advanced, things became calmer. Giving a total of $40 billion, including the cost of ammunition, destroyed equipment, and damage to the base. However, this amount still does not include the operational costs that are already being considered in the Pentagon's budget for 2026, which exceed $1 trillion.
Look, on the other hand, this Netanyahu has already come out and reiterated that he will prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. He's still on the same topic, isn't he? And he says, well, agreement or no agreement, they are going to be paying attention. He reaffirms Israel's presence in southern Lebanon. I mean, they say, well, the Israeli military, the IDF, will continue to be there. He was asking for three things today, not Israel, but that Hezbollah should be behind the Litani River. I mean, Hezbollah behind the Litani River and to lay down their arms. Basically, we're talking about dismantling all of that and that all the military infrastructure that Hezbollah has from the Litani River towards Israel, towards the Israeli border, all of that should be completely dismantled. That's an issue that, well, for now, there wasn't anything else. There was an extra point, which was that Israel could operate inside Lebanon if it was attacked. In other words, that they wouldn't cause them problems, right? That they would give them the freedom to attack. Suddenly, there was some kind of operation that they saw against them. Well, obviously, this shows that there is still tension on that issue, right?
It's exactly about the issue of the Strait of Hormuz. Also today, through an Iranian media outlet called Tasnim. They claim, according to a source who was at the negotiating table, that the Strait of Hormuz will not be reopened until the ceasefire in Lebanon is respected. So basically, if there isn't a ceasefire from both sides, generally from Israel, then this route will remain closed. The only exception would be to allow the sale of Iranian oil. It will only open for that, to get Iranian oil out, but other than that, nothing will happen.
We interrupt your program.
That's why there are other matters, other important topics about what's happening in the world. What else do we have over there?
Well, today the United Kingdom is getting ready to test what would be a space and hypersonic plane to achieve faster flights. This project is called Invictus and it's backed by the ESA, which is like NASA but for Europe. And its goal is to build this test vehicle by reusing parts to reach what is Mach 5 by 2031 and beyond. And
just imagine, that's several times the speed of sound. That's really impressive, honestly. And well, there are more and more developments. Some of them have already been tested, others are still in development, and others are in the experimental stage but have already been tried out. Not long ago, we told you about this Concorde type project, to make trips from New York to London, for example, being able to travel between continents in just a few hours. Honestly, that's really interesting. And without the zoom, the sonic boom, the famous one that can cause a lot of problems and vibrations that can even be harmful to humans or to infrastructure as well. Check this out. I mean, making that sonic boom could even be dangerous. So they're already building this plane. In fact, they've already tested it. They've just done some initial tests. but obviously they're going to keep adding more time to this kind of thing, right? Let's move on to other important matters. Well, there's confirmation of another H5 case as well. This avian flu that has been detected in Australia, which was one of the regions in the world where there hadn't been any cases for a very long time. And well, now there's another case, right?
Exactly. Just yesterday or the day before, you mentioned the first case, which was reported by the Prime Minister of Australia. Well, today the authorities confirmed a second sick bird on a remote beach on the southern coast of Western Australia that has tested positive for the deadly strain of bird flu, Toro. The Federal Minister of Agriculture, whose name is Julie Collins, stated that the test carried out at CSIRO confirmed that both the brown bird and the northern giant petrel have tested positive. Did they test positive for H5N1 bird flu? Both birds were found in the same area called Esperance, about 700 kilometers northeast. And the authorities confirmed on Saturday morning that the brown bird also had the disease.
Well, that's part of what's happening in that region of the world. We had already mentioned that about Australia, since it's a bit isolated. Sometimes it escapes certain zoonotic epidemics and things like that. Speaking of this, since we're on the topic, there's also what's happening with Ebola. The information has been updated. Ebola cases have already surpassed 1,000 in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. There are now over 1,000 confirmed cases. It is known that there are many more, with 254 deaths. The number of confirmed and suspected deaths has also increased considerably, and it is much higher. The point is that 365 people have recovered, and that should also be mentioned. No, I mean, there are people, many hundreds, who managed to recover, and they're finding more ways to recover. The problem is that many people don't follow the procedures they're asked to, basically to avoid dying, and they end up escaping from the hospitals. And there are many. You know how this is, right? A lot of information, a lot of internal problems there besides the issues with guerrilla groups. There are 8 divisions in the country. I mean, a lot of problems. The point is that at the same time, it keeps adding up. There are 3 provinces that are affected by what? Cases, right? And what they're asking for is to stay organized. I mean, to know who was contacted, to know which cases there are, to keep trying to inform people. It's a tremendous job. Besides, these poor doctors, nurses, assistants, and all of them risk their lives because they're treated really badly. I mean, sometimes they're asked to guard the bodies of those who have died. And they go there with weapons and everything, right? If you don't give it to them, you could lose your life. There are a lot of tough things happening, right?
Exactly. There are some really intense images when they're handling the burials and really aggressive people show up and take the bodies from them, right? Doctors, like those carrying out the attacks, also put themselves at great risk.
Well, yeah. Hey, soccer was really weird today. Yeah. But very interesting. Of course, look, a Belgium-Iran 0, for example, right? Right from the start.
That group is already tied right there.
Tied? How did they tie? But let's see what happened with Uruguay. What's up with Uruguay and Cabo Verde? When you watch the game, honestly, well, Cabo Verde did their thing too, but obviously Uruguay is still more technical and all that. But Cabo Verde seemed hungrier. I honestly think they wanted to win more, right? This Uruguay team has all the technique in the world, all the experience in the world, because you have to admit that Uruguay has a lot of international players and all that.
Anyway, a lot of history.
A lot of history when it comes to soccer, but definitely Cabo Verde. Well, maybe they're the ones making history. Doing it. They're doing it, right? Exactly. And there's a lot of hunger to win, right? To do everything possible to win. And honestly, you can see that. You can see it in the game. Honestly, it's impressive.
And now it's getting really tough for Uruguay because they have to play against Spain. And Spain is coming in very confident and already well positioned.
And they also needed points. I mean, because in the first game, they only got 1 point, right?
Yes. Well, right now they already have 4. Anyway, they're the leader of their group, but Uruguay is definitely going to have a tough time, while Cape Verde has it easier with Saudi Arabia. Those Saudis.
It's right now.
Imagine Uruguay and Cape Verde have the same number of points.
Uruguay, Cape Verde, But Cape Verde, like you said, facing Saudi Arabia. It's easier. Now, Cape Verde will give their all and leave everything on the field. They're going all out against Saudi Arabia, which is already out.
Yes, that's it.
Even if they say they'll give it their all, it's not the same. The other team still has a chance to advance and will go all out. We'll see what happens, but that's how it is. I think a lot of us are going to try to watch that game. Even though we're not really big soccer fans, it's been very interesting. Spain was incredible, right? I don't know if you've seen the goals, and honestly, right now, there was nothing they could do. Honestly, they really looked way superior. It's Spain and New Zealand. I haven't seen anything at all from Egypt.
New Zealand, Egypt won.
Yes.
3-1.
3 to Iran against Egypt. Well, surely Egypt. Did you see?
That Iran against Egypt, that's good. Surely Egypt is going to win. Egypt.
I say if you had said Belgium, Iran, I wouldn't have said Belgium. Probably yes. And look, they ended up tied. I mean, so let's see. By the way, there was a protest there in the audience. I don't know if I can pause the image like this, but let's put it up. Because there was a protest in the audience by one person that's been getting a lot of attention. Let's see if we can put it here. There's a person right here. Look, I mean, let's see. It's this person who has a sign. They're in Los Angeles. I think it wasn't this one. And the person, show it. Let's see. There it is. Show 1. A complaint about why they removed an Iranian player. For criticizing the Iranian government, right? For being critical, isn't it?
If we call him Jamas Masajere, the goalkeeper.
He was a goalkeeper, wasn't he?
Okay.
The point is they might take him out or not, which is why someone is protesting.
That's how he was a goalkeeper.
Yeah, well, yes or no. It also brings this image of what's going on.
That's the memorandum from Pakistan and Qatar, where they talk about how this cell has already been formed, which, well, it's basically the same thing, right? The cell to de-escalate the situation in Lebanon over the next 60 days and to be able to continue with the agreement.
Well, that's the image. By the way, what's up with Trump officially announcing the departure of Starmer, the Prime Minister?
From the United Kingdom, early this morning, he said no, he's going to say goodbye on Monday. Yeah, I mean, it's known. There's a rumor that Starmer is going to leave on Monday since Friday. Yeah, that's the rumor. But it looks bad for the president to say it.
It looks bad that Trump also isn't clear about what happened. What's going on?
Here are some of the protests we were just talking about against the results over there in Colombia.
Well, protests are starting to happen. They don't seem, I mean, they look like peaceful protests, right? That's what I see. At least in this, well, in this image. And then there's also this other image. I don't know if you want to comment on it.
Well, it's an attack that just happened right now by the Southern Command, the one that always happens here in the Pacific area. It seems to me that this is also in the Pacific. Well, one is in the Caribbean. It's in the Caribbean where they claim to have destroyed a boat supposedly involved in drug trafficking, where 2 people reportedly lost their lives and 6 survived. It's quite visible.
They survived. That draws attention. This was coordinated with the United States Coast Guard in an operation, one of those major ones they've been reporting. They're adding up. They're adding up what they call kinetic operations, using kinetic force in that region of the world. By the way, the military movements haven't stopped. Even though there's an agreement and all that, the military movements haven't stopped right now in the Strait of Hormuz. This military activity from the United States is going strong. If we look here, we can see movements of tanker planes, KC-135 Stratotankers from the United States Air Force and a maritime intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft. The P-8A Poseidon from the United States is active at this moment, also activity in that regard. So, well, keep an eye on that matter. How have you been? How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Father's Day, right? Also to the grandfathers, since there are several here too. Congratulations.
Greetings about what I did. By the way this group is going, 3rd place could end up playing against Mexico. So we could have Cape Verde, Uruguay, or Saudi Arabia as a rival. And honestly, I prefer Saudi Arabia. Now it's the easiest one.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I made a good point.
Greetings to Sebas. We're glad Abelardo didn't win in Colombia. Sebas sends greetings from below on the left.
How have you been?
Raul Sachs
Greetings to everyone from Sobol.
says the potatoes, we break our backs for the dads, sorry. For the potatoes, sorry. The dads, we break our backs day and night. In the end, we end up alone. The children don't know who says what or why. Say no, no.
It doesn't have to be like this. Not this.
And well, yes, I mean, suddenly, yes, they also live their adult lives and everything, and there's a bit of separation, but no, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Greetings to Eddie. How have you been? Raul Sachs, big greetings. Escudero says, is it true they don't allow refillable water bottles in stadiums? And the BBC says this is the most polluting World Cup ever. I find that incredible.
It's all just about making more money, more cash. It guts FIFA, and that's what it's about.
But the issue of water really should be very important. Yeah, seriously. I mean, that's a human right. Like in movie theaters, they can say no to certain foods. But when it comes to water, they absolutely can't say anything to you.
And it says about that, the big mistake by the national teams, especially some from CONMEBOL, it's underestimating small countries like Cape Verde and Curacao. They don't prepare to go to countries that have nothing to lose. Yes, exactly. For example, in Scotland's case, things may not have gone well, but I love how the Scots in Boston, who have already finished all the alcohol on the east side, admit they know they're not going to win anything. It's the first time they're in a World Cup, but they're going there simply because they were able to qualify and participate in the World Cup. But, well, the people, the Scots, have nothing to lose. The players don't.
Of course. Yes. I mean, let's go get some fresh water with some ice.
Hey, yes. Thank you very much. I think.
Happy Father's Day. Thank you so much, Raul Saxa. Greetings to the whole community, all dads and grandpas. Sending everyone a big hug. He says that in the world, the moment a left-wing candidate wins, they become right-wing, says Wilco. True. Yeah, I mean, left-wing candidates or even right-wing ones, when they take office, usually move more toward the center. That's logical. It's normal to try to balance things out a bit. I mean, that's also the healthiest thing to do. So if you're too far to the left, you move more toward the center. Or if you're too far to the right, you also move toward the center. And not just stay there, isolated and completely polarized. But anyway, that's what's normal. Says, and his poor Colombia. He says, but the good thing is it's only 4 years. Let's hope he doesn't do too much damage. Esprit says, Ana did. Raul says in alphabetical order. Today is Father's Day and then Pepe's Day. Greetings, Raul. He says, I am dad and daddy. Martin says, and papa. That's it, Martin.
But that onion says the most important thing is that there is change and that it is positive. Yes, that's the most important thing. That's the healthiest. Not just taking turns one side and then the other.
Yes, ultimately the problem is they get paralyzed and the figures on both sides become increasingly extreme. That's what's a bit worrying. Obviously, hopefully the balance will just continue. That's all. Hello, Eddie. How have you been, Raul? Yeah, very good blues. Alejandro, how are you? How have you been? Alejandro, also known as Bebe, says, and what would happen with the Greenland issue? That Trump, I mean, yes, that he intended to take Greenland and all that stuff. But one day he's down on the topic and the next day he's up, right? He's constantly like that, changing his mind on that topic, right?
Exactly. It's a really complicated issue. Several people have remembered that at one point he thought it might be possible to trade Greenland from Denmark for Puerto Rico.
His thinking is really strange, almost like a weird card game.
But that's just how that man thinks. Greetings to Eddie. Editing, let's give it up for Eddie Martin. And I know you've heard about Maria Corina and Trump's tradition. Well, today she came out to tell the Colombians to think carefully about their vote. To do it thinking about what's best for their country, right?
Without supporting any of them.
Well, that's fine.
Not supporting any specific one is like the game Turista Mundial. It's like he thinks he's playing Turista.
He goes around like that, so he gets you this card. Greetings to Juan Carlos Sanchez in Mexico City.
What's up? Hi, Carlos. How have you been? A big hello as well to everyone who supports this channel. Remember, you can support the channel in many ways here with a super chat, a super sticker, or super thanks. There's something new that I don't know how it works. Not sure if you've seen it. It's called gifts. I don't know exactly how it works. It'll show up for you there. It's a new feature and well, that's also another way to support the channel, those who gift memberships to subscribers, and that's also greatly appreciated. That support. It says that Trump used to play Monopoly a lot. Yeah, exactly. It's like Wigoff. That was his thing, says Mauro. Nowadays, they make us dads cook, says Mauro. But this one's actually good. If you like cooking, it's cool, right? I mean, the flavor is different too. You know, the dad's touch. Normally, it's kind of different, you know, not the same. I don't know. It's like a change. Suddenly, it's nice. He also says, so how can you think that Colombia doesn't want to become another Venezuela or Cuba? We like our freedom, says Sebas, says Mauro. Nowadays, when they make us cook or we read it, says Maria Corina's grandfather. No greetings, says this one. And World Traveler says Raul Sanz. If you notice, it's not there. Incredible. Let's go.
Hello guys, greetings to everyone, and well, you already know that we are here on WhatsApp and Telegram. We send you notifications about the live streams, but we are also on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, and you can find us there. We'll see you tomorrow morning. We will be sharing the most important things happening in the world so you can stay up to date, right?
Thanks again to the community. Happy Father's Day to all dads and grandfathers here. Marvin, how have you been? We'll keep chatting until tomorrow. Big Seca, how are you? Good evening and have a great week. See you later.
We interrupt your regular programming. Dual. Thank you for organizing the truth. This is Pepe Live. Pepe Live.
The truth is intense. The unusual is real. We analyze it here. Global perspective. Don't miss out. Tune into the channel. Pepe Live, controlling the signal. Keep telling it like it is. Raw journalism. Here respect is given. Turn on the alert. Don't lose track. Until next time. Yes, sir.
We're taking attendance.
Subscribe. Yes. Pepe Live in the house. Pepe Live.